Hey everybody, I wanted to make a different type of video today. There's this YouTube channel that I saw that I love. I've been following him for a long time on my Patreon called Sinister Cinema Reviews. I really recommend it. It's this guy named Jason. He just sits in front of the camera and talks. But he made a video about 3 years ago. I just saw it about a month or two ago, where he said it's basically movies that shaped his childhood. And I was really inspired by the video, so I figured I'd do something pretty much similar. It's pretty much the same, but this one's going to be movies and theater experiences that shaped my childhood and my teenage years. And this is going to be just childhood and teenage years because I can't talk about too much of adult stuff. Like, it's just too much to go on. I'm really trying to make this video as short as I can, but that's... You guys know me, I could talk forever. That's why I like scripted stuff. My birth date is February 16th, 1992. I'm 29 years old right now. I know I look a lot younger. Everybody tells me, oh, I thought you were like 18, 19, but I'm not. I'm 29. And so I grew up in the 90s with VHSs and going into DVDs. I grew up mostly with my grandmother and my Uncle Paul on my mother's side. My Uncle Paul was a film student, and I shared rooms with him. But I spent, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 years, maybe more like 2 years that I remember with my mother. Like third grade and then a little around kindergarten. Everything else was with my grandma and then my uncle. And the first movie experience I ever had, I remember being a little kid watching like The Terminator and Dumb and Dumber, being like, well, I don't even mean a little kid, I mean like a baby, like toddler, like still crawling around, like basically a toddler. Those are my first movie experiences, and I love those movies. Terminator 2 was a big movie, but the first movie I remember me and my mom, we were living at my her friend's house, this woman named Nadine, and she had all these daughters. They were older than me, and I remember my mom sat me down, and I must have been about 5 or 6, around there. I should have been around there. It was off and on, me and my mom, because my grandma took me back. I realized it wasn't a good household, so my grandma took me away, but then my mom said, let me take him back, and it was back and forth for a little bit. And then, but I remember my mom sat me down, and she said, I'm going to show you your first scary movie, and I didn't know what scary meant. And she put in a VHS tape of The Lost Boys, and it completely changed my world and life forever. And I loved every second of it. I was so scared and excited, and it was just like one of the greatest experiences of my life. I knew right then I loved movies. So if you guys know me, you guys know that I'm obsessed with the Coreys, Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, and that's a big reason why, because they were like the introduction to movies for me. That was their first movie together, and then I watched like Silver Bullet and Stand By Me. Those are the best ones. But I also grew up with like The Goonies, Gremlins, Friday the 13th, and yeah, Friday the 13th Part 4. That's the one with Corey Feldman. I remember my uncle. It was on HBO. We had there was a Friday the 13th marathon. Oh my god, I hate my speech. That's why I don't like making these fucking videos like this. My uncle bought a whole bunch of chili cheese dogs from Wiener Schnitzel. We watched like the first 7 Friday the 13th movies, and Part 4 was that's the absolute best one. It's exactly what you want out of a Friday the 13th. It has Crispin Glover, Corey Feldman. It's just perfect. It's a perfect Friday the 13th movie. I'm not a huge fan of the franchise, but I love that and Freddy vs. Jason, and I like the first 2. Other than that, I don't care about them. Part 3 is okay. I remember there's that scene in Friday the 13th Part 4 when the horny guy, the one who can't get laid, is watching like that old school black and white porno on the 16 millimeter. And I remember having a dream about that night where it was like about that chick from the porno, but she was like, it was like a map, and she was like in a river stream flowing, and she was just laying down, and it was all black and white. It was all this weird, it was like the weirdest thing I'd ever thought of. And that image always stuck in my brain. And then the first time I ever one of the first times I ever got high and hallucinated, I started thinking about that, and I was hallucinating that, and I was in it, and it was just such a crazy experience. I don't know, just Friday the 13th Part 4. But the bottom line is the Coreys were like the representation of like movie stars to me. When I was a kid, movie stars were the Coreys, River Phoenix, and Devon Sawa. Those were and Leonardo DiCaprio. Those guys were the movie stars. But my favorite were Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. I fucking love them so much, and I just love their movies. And I got into more movies of them later, and I'll talk about that later. It's okay. So there's like 3 people to credit my childhood. This is like 5 or 6 years old. To to credit to my taste in movies and why I saw so many movies. First was my grandma Nell and my uncle Mike. My uncle Mike died when I was 4 years old, but he lived with my grandma Nell, so all of his VHS collection was in my grandma Nell's living room. So I grew up with his VHS collection, and he took me to Universal Studios a couple months before he died, and that was a pretty big experience. Going to Universal lot and going on all those rides. Okay, but and then my grandma Nellie Armenta, she died when I was a couple months after I turned 18, right before I graduated high school. And my grandmother she was a huge horror fan. She was obsessed with horror movies. So as soon as I told her I like scary movies, she was like, oh, we're going to watch everything. And she showed me all these Bela Lugosi movies and Boris Karloff movies. And we watched all those. But we really got into Stephen King. We really bonded over Stephen King movies. Like I said, the Corys. My favorite Stephen King movie of all time, it's not the best, but my favorite is Silver Bullet. It was starring Corey Haim. That movie, I don't know, man. I just watched that movie over and over again. I used to watch so many movies over and over again, but something about that movie is so special to me. And I recently saw that in a beautiful 35mm print a couple years ago at the New Beverly Cinema. So beautiful. Then also Stand By Me. I remember watching Stand By Me over and over and over again. And this was like, I remember because it was right when Titanic came out, because my sister was making fun of me. I had an older sister named Brittany. She's a half-sister. She's 6 years older than me. She was making fun of me for watching it over and over again. I was like, dude, how many fucking times did you go see Titanic in theaters? Like, shut up. And I remember really loving, Corey Feldman and River Phoenix. But Stephen King movies and Pet Sematary 1 and 2, me and my grandma now really bonded over those movies, and she showed me It. I remember walking in while she was watching It. And it was the end of part 1. And it was when Stanley kills himself, and then I was like, what is this? And my grandma was like, watch tomorrow, we're gonna watch both parts, it's gonna be on TV. And we watched it, and it was such a fucking great experience watching those on TV and VHS. It was beautiful. But Stephen King movies. Also, my older sister, my grandma Nell and my uncle Mike were huge parts of my childhood, why I watched movies. But also my older sister, because she showed me all these teenage movies she was watching, movies that I was just a kid who watched movies that kids should not watch, and they never really affected me. I never had nightmares. I was never traumatized by them, but I definitely had a naughty mouth, and I saw things. There are a handful of movies I really believe I shouldn't see, but I remember people telling my uncle and certain people you shouldn't let him watch these movies. Dude, he's a kid. This is inappropriate. But I begged and I begged and I begged. They were not pushing them on to me. I begged to watch him. They're just like, whatever. He's not having nightmares, and I want to go see these movies in theaters too, and I want to watch them, whatever. But Stephen King. I remember my older sister showed me Carrie, and seeing that opening credit sequence, all those vaginas, it was like, holy shit, this movie's badass. And that's such a great movie. I saw it in 35mm a couple years ago at the Egyptian. Beautiful. And then my uncle took me to go see Dreamcatcher in theaters. So my uncle he's the biggest reason why I watched movies. He took me to go see Dreamcatcher. That was my first Stephen King movie in theaters. He had his VHS collection, and my uncle Mike had his VHS collection. My Uncle Mike, the ones that I would watch over and over again were American Graffiti, the Back to the Future trilogy, the Godfather trilogy, and every single episode of The Twilight Zone. I had every single episode of The Twilight Zone. They were all these big fat boxes that opened up. They were like the door. It was fucking great. I grew up on The Twilight Zone. So much. So those were the ones I really watched a lot from my Uncle Mike's collection. And then my Uncle Paul, I shared a room with him, like I said. He had, like I said, he was a film student in the 90s, which meant Quentin Tarantino was a god to every film student in the 90s. We used to have these 2 life-size posters. Like I have this one, Reservoir Dogs. We had 2 Reservoir Dogs posters that came together. It was 2 posters that ultimately made 1 poster that size, the big life-size poster of the opening credits, where it's all of them, and it's like all of them standing in the alley, like the opening credit scene. So that was basically almost my entire wall. Then I had another one that was flipped the other way, like this, and it was the Pulp Fiction poster. So I had an entire wall of just Quentin Tarantino posters. My uncle had a great VHS collection, and then we went into DVDs. But what I remember was he had all the Quentin Tarantino movies, True Romance, From Dusk Till Dawn, Pulp Fiction. We had Desperado, Fargo, Boogie Nights, Summer Sam, Mulholland Drive, and Raising Arizona. Those are the ones that I would watch over and over again. I would watch like Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, not Do the Right Thing, Girl 6. I didn't like Do the Right Thing until later. I watched it. I couldn't appreciate it the first time I watched it, but I used to watch Girl 6 a lot, and was it Girl 6 and Summer of Sam, especially Summer of Sam. I'm obsessed with that fucking movie. We used to have two different movie theaters. There was a $3 theater, which was only $3. It was really cheap, and like the seats sucked, and the walls were nasty. But we would go there. My grandma now would only take us there because she was a little cheap. And I remember the first time there was on the other side of town, the AMC theaters. That was like, I don't know, $7 or $8 at the time. And the first movie I remember seeing at the AMC theater was Never Been Kissed with Drew Barrymore. It's also James Franco's first movie, Who's My Hero. He's just a very small part, barely says anything. But I remember that was a big deal going to AMC. And it was like, holy shit. I remember I had a box of Crunch Nuggets, like those Nestle Crunch. And I was so excited, and I had the candy, and I dropped them like 5 or 10 minutes in the movie. I remember feeling like my heart broke. I felt like such a piece of shit for wasting my uncle's money. My mom took me with her friends and her teenage sons. We saw 3 movies in one night, and we saw Scary Movie, Road Trip, and Bring It On. Holy shit, dude. Oh my god, seeing Scary Movie in theaters was so fucking crazy, man. It was so much fun. It was so dirty. And Road Trip was a sex comedy. I also saw American Pie Part 2 in theaters. American Pie was a big deal, 1 and 2, when those came out. Those were fucking great, man. Seeing Part 2, I love Part 2. Maybe because I saw it in theater, but I love them both. My uncle took me to go see Part 2. And I remember going into American Pie 2 with my uncle. We were walking in, and as I was walking in, this kid, I think it was Tommy. No, not Tommy. It was this big kid. I can't remember his name, but I knew him from elementary school, and he was walking out with his mom. And I said, "Hey, man, how you doing?" And I said, "What did you watch?" And he watched something, and he said, "What are you watching?" And I said, "American Pie 2." And I remember his mom giving me a look like, "What? He can't be, huh?" And so, but yeah, Scary Movie, Road Trip, fucking great. So me and my uncle had this thing. He would take me every Friday night to the movie theater. Every Friday night, 10 p.m., we'd always see a new horror movie, pretty much a horror movie. And we would go Sundays or Saturdays, and we would most of the time go see 2 movies. We'd get our money's worth. We'd buy 1 ticket and go into one. One particular time I remember extra, that was one of the greatest theater experiences of my life, was we saw Jeepers Creepers and Tim Blake Nelson's starring Josh Hartnett and Mekhi Phifer. And it was like, oh my god, these are 2 amazing movies, and that day changed my life. And I love those movies so goddamn much. It was 2 completely different movies, but holy shit, that was an amazing experience. I'm sorry, I'm going to be jumping back and forth in time. This is really hard to keep track of. The first R-rated theater experience that I remember, it might not be the first one, but the one that I remember being like, oh my god, this is a rated R movie, and walking through the aisles, was seeing The Faculty. And I fucking love Robert Rodriguez, man, and Kevin Williamson. That was such a great experience. I fucking love that movie. So nostalgic. That was a huge theater experience for me, seeing The Faculty. Okay, so this was... I saw Jeepers Creepers in 3rd grade, and The Faculty was about 2nd grade. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Faculty must have. There could have been some extra ones radar, but that's the one I remember. So I'm going with that. But after that, the ones I really remember were it was right after that, like 2nd grade, 3rd grade, was Idle Hands, Final Destination, Sleepy Hollow, and From Hell. And 2 of them were with Devon Sawa, Idle Hands, and Final Destination. I also saw Slackers in theaters. I really liked that movie. And I met Devon Sawa, and I told him how much, like, I don't know, I kind of fucked up that meeting. I think I freaked him out. I think he, I don't know, I wish it had gone better, but he was really nice. Devon Sawa was really nice. It was so crazy meeting him. I was so starstruck. But, God, Final Destination in theaters, I was fucking scared, but I loved every second of it. That was an intense movie to see in theaters, man. That plane crash, and then I remember being really scared during the teacher when the computer explodes and like it goes into her neck. That wasn't. I mean, the whole movie was super intense, but I fucking loved every second. And I loved all the Final Destination movies. The first 3, I love the first 3. I saw them all in theaters. Those first 3. The rest are okay. And then Sleepy Hollow and From Hell, both with Johnny Depp. I remember kind of starting to fall asleep during Sleepy Hollow, but then like a jump scare woke me up, and that's such a beautiful movie to watch. And From Hell, it was just really dark and bloody, and I was just like, whoa, this is And I love the Hughes brothers, the guys who directed it, some guys who made Dead Presidents and Menace to Society. It's pretty crazy that they made that movie. I love those guys, but I remember those theater experiences really sticking out to me. A big deal for me also seeing in theaters, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. I remember watching the Ben Affleck scene in the opening, thinking, I never want to leave this movie theater. This is perfect. I don't want this movie to ever end. I want to be here forever. I remember dreading. The movie was like 20 minutes in. I was like dreading that the movie was going to end. I knew the movies have to end. I'm thinking, I don't want to leave. And I'd already seen Chasing Amy and Dogma. And I love those fucking movies. And I was just like, I gotta see Clerks. I remember that. And then I watched Clerks. And fuck, dude, I love Kevin Smith so much. I used to have Kevin Smith comic books. I had Chasing Dogma, this comic book that's in between those two stories, those two movies. I had the Clerks comic book. And then I had Blunt Man and Chronic. I remember I had these like in 4th and 5th grade. This was crazy. And then my uncle, he became really obsessed with Wes Anderson, his first 3 movies. He, at the time, it's not anymore, but he became obsessed with Rushmore. Rushmore was like his favorite movie for his films, like projects. We would reenact scenes of the movie. When the Royal Tenenbaums came out, he went crazy. It was such a big deal. It wasn't playing at any of the theaters by us. You know, the opening 2 weeks are only like in Hollywood and New York. And he drove me to Hollywood, and that was like the second time I had ever went to Hollywood. And we spent like 2 hours waiting. We went to the Tower Records, and I remember just looking through a book of horror movie posters, and then we saw this at this really small. It was a small screen. I don't know what theater it was, but we saw Royal Tenenbaums, and it was crazy. And that was a big experience. He loved Bottle Rocket, Rushmore, and Royal Tenenbaums, and I love those movies too. After that, I'm not too into Wes Anderson movies. He's definitely got some good ones, but after I think those first 3 movies are amazing. And then this was like during Blockbuster, renting VHS movies. And I remember my older sister Brittany, we rented the first day it was out was Very Bad Things, and it was like, holy shit, dude, I should not be watching this, but I fucking love it, dude. If you've never seen Very Bad Things, oh my god, buy the Blu-ray. It's on I don't know. I just got it on Blu-ray. It's so fucking good, man. That movie is crazy. Pete Berg's first movie, wow. And then I remember there's only a couple movies. My uncle, I was like, Paul, take me to go see this movie. And he said, no, it's too inappropriate. I can't take you this. This only happened a couple times. And so I would, it became my mission in life. Oh, I'm going to fucking watch that movie behind your back. And then I'm going to rub it in your face. And I'm going to get grounded. But I don't care because I'm going to rub it in your face that I saw it and I didn't need you. And the first one was Better Luck Tomorrow. And I saw that in 35 millimeter less than 2 years ago. And I met one of the actors in it, Jason Tobin. He was so cool. God, that movie really influenced me as like an artist. Never seen Better Luck Tomorrow. I'm pretty sure it's just coming out on Blu-ray. Justin Lin's first movie, really like crazy fucking movie. I love it. But then in 4th grade, my uncle, he bought a whole bunch of Stanley Kubrick movies. And 2 nights, I can't remember which one we saw first, but within 2 nights we watched, it was 4th grade, A Clockwork Orange and The Shining. And I remember just being I was like, oh my god, dude, what the fuck? And I honestly think it was a bad idea to show me both those movies because my brain couldn't take both of them. So I only took in Clockwork Orange, and I forgot. And I remember going to my friend the next day and explaining every single scene of the entire movie, just reenacting the entire movie to him. I was like, dude, you gotta watch this fucking movie, man. It's so crazy. And I didn't get back into The Shining until as an adult when I got kind of sober, and I read the book and I was like, whoa, this book is different from the movie. And I watched the miniseries remake, and I watched that fucking crazy documentary about how it's all there's a Room 237, and then I rewatched all The Shining. I became obsessed with The Shining. But seeing those 2 Stanley Kubrick movies was crazy. And I also remember one of the few times I went with my dad. He had a girlfriend. We rented his house, and we rented Eyes Wide Shut, and I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. I was just like, this is a weird ass fucking movie. This was like 2nd grade. I'm watching. So I must have watched Eyes Wide Shut before. Yeah, I watched it before Clockwork Orange, and but it didn't have that much an impact. I don't love that movie. It's good, but I don't love it. Blockbuster, and then I also had a dollar video store right across the street from my house. And HBO. I had HBO because my family, my grandma, my uncle watched The Sopranos, which even before I didn't watch The Sopranos, which is my favorite show of all time now, got into it into high school. I love The Sopranos because it got me HBO, and I'd watch all these movies that I'm just so glad I could watch. It was like Sunny, starring James Franco, But I'm a Cheerleader, Speedway Junkie, which I named my channel after, and you could watch the entire movie. I uploaded it. I made reviews on both those movies. I watched May, the Lucky McKee movie. Holy shit, dude, that movie scared the shit out of me the first time watching it. I thought it was a comedy watching it. I was like 5 minutes late into the movie, and I was just like, oh, this is a black comedy? And it was like, holy shit, Lucky McKee, man, what happened to him? I wish he made that Masters of Horror episode, and I didn't think that was that great, but it was okay. But the defining moments that changed my life was in 4th grade. I saw From Dusk Till Dawn and Scarface. And those are the two movies that made me say, okay, I want to make fucking movies. And my uncle, like I said, he was a film student, so he was writing scripts, and I said, I want to write a fucking movie. It blew me away. From Dusk Till Dawn was just absolutely everything I ever wanted in a movie. Had titties, vampires, crime, bloody monster vampire movie, Quentin Tarantino being a fucking sociopath, evil son of a bitch, and I just fucking loved every goddamn second. It was so exciting and so much fun. And then Scarface was just, Scarface is one of the greatest fucking movies of all time. This coked out, incredibly violent epic. It's an epic fucking movie. And then I was so in love with it. For 4th grade, I was like, yeah, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. And I started writing screenplays, horrible screenplays, but I was writing. But so my uncle started buying screenplays, and he bought Pulp Fiction and The Royal Tenenbaums. And then so I would read those ones over and over. I read Pulp Fiction so many times. I remember taking it to school. But he bought me From Dusk Till Dawn and Scarface because I was so obsessed with them. And I still have those screenplays. And I've bought some screenplays lately, the past couple years. I have a few screenplays. So I was so obsessed with these movies, and it must have been early 5th grade. My uncle said they're playing Scarface in a theater in Hollywood, and I remember he was like, God, I shouldn't have fucking told you. You're never gonna shut up, which I didn't. And he took me to the Egyptian theater. It was the first time I ever went to the Egyptian theater in Hollywood, and now I go all the fucking time before COVID. Hopefully they open up soon. But this was the very first time I went to the Egyptian theater, and I remember when Tony Montana is drunk and he's telling off his wife, and he has that scene where he's like, you need fucking people like me to point your finger and say you're the bad guy. And the camera, it's a dolly shot where it's the dolly tracking around him. It's circular and slowly going around him. I remember sitting in the theater right there, and I could see it in my head. I could see the camera, I could see the dolly, I could see the tracks, and I remember thinking, this is what I need to do with my life. Like, I knew it before, but it was a definitive moment in my life saying, I need to make movies. This is what I'm meant to do. This is why I'm put on earth. I need to fucking make movies. That's what I'm here for. It was a life-changing moment. It really was. From Dusk Till Dawn and Scarface, those movies changed my life. Those movies are so goddamn fucking important to me. And I grew up with a lot of like I said, Scarface is this epic cocaine movie. I grew up with also Goodfellas too. My dad, I didn't see my dad a lot. My dad named me after but when he did, my dad wasn't a creative guy. He didn't like art or anything. He really didn't even like movies. But the only director he did like was Martin Scorsese, and he named me after Jacob LaMotta from Raging Bull, Robert De Niro's character. So, and then so he showed me Goodfellas and Raging Bull, and then I remember in 4th grade I watched Taxi Driver just on my own. I put it on and I was like Clockwork Orange. I was like, oh my God. Taxi Driver also changed my world. It was fucking insane. There was something about it, man. It was just, I can't put it in words. There was just something I got, man, from that fucking movie. Taxi Driver in 4th grade. Holy shit. Oh my God. It was just like, wow, you can make a movie like this? Like, I don't know. It was just, I don't know what it was. It was just Taxi Driver, man. I fucking love that movie. I have a huge poster right behind. I've had it since 11th grade. It's gigantic, this size, but it's this of Robert De Niro with the mohawk. You can't see it, but God, so this Taxi Driver, man, I fucking love it. And speaking about Martin Scorsese, when Gangs of New York came out, that was a big deal. That was my first Martin Scorsese movie in theaters in 35 millimeter, and I remember it was a big deal. My dad was like, okay, I'm gonna take you to the movie theater, we're gonna watch this, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude. So we saw Gangs of New York in theater, and it was the premiere of the Kill Bill Volume 1 trailer. This is 5th grade, and it was like, because I Oh, I had just seen Jackie Brown, and it was like a big deal. Like Tarantino's making a movie again, like because I don't remember when Jackie Brown came out in theaters. I saw it on VHS. It wasn't on DVD yet. There was like a weird couple of years it wasn't on DVD. It was weird, but just like the Kill Bill, and then seeing Kill Bill Volume 1, and I'm gonna actually see that in a couple of weeks. I got tickets to go see that at Tarantino's theater, the New Beverly. I'm gonna see it and his original 35 millimeter print, the one he filmed it on. But seeing Kill Bill Volume 1 in theaters, that crazy 88 scene, it was like the closest thing I could think of like how sex would feel. I was like, I felt like I was orgasming, like I was fucking coming all over the goddamn movie screen. It was epic. My older sister Brittany took me to see that, and we were going fucking crazy. I remember, and I also got to talk about the first time I saw Pulp Fiction. The first time I saw Pulp Fiction, I watched it with my two sisters, and my sister, when Marcellus Wallace is getting raped, my sister, older sister, made us put our faces in the couch so we couldn't see. And I was like, I have to see what happened. And so I remember I borrowed the VHS from my uncle, and I watched it by myself. And I looked at the shot, and I was like, what are they doing? I don't understand. This is like second, third grade. And I went up to my uncle. He was playing a Sega Dreamcast. And I was like, Paul, what is that guy doing to Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction? And my uncle was just looking at the game, and he was playing. He's like, he doesn't look at me. He goes, they're making cheese. And I go, what? Huh? Making cheese? What is happening? I don't understand. Oh my God. It was, but yeah, Gangs in New York and Kill Bill, it was fucking crazy, man. Having those two Tarantino movies come out, a Tarantino and Scorsese movie come out, these directors that I fucking loved already so much with a passion. And it was like, ever since then, I've seen every single one of their movies in theaters. Every single one. So like I said, my uncle would take me every Friday night, 10 p.m. to the movies, and we saw so many movies. Deuce Wild was a huge fucking movie. I've told the story on my Deuce Wild review. Basically, we couldn't get tickets to Spider-Man 1 the opening night, so we saw Deuce Wild, and it changed my world. Like, it was just like one of the greatest theater experiences of my life. I fucking love that movie. I fucking love Brad Renfro. You guys know he's my favorite actor of all time. I didn't really get into Brad Renfro until I was an adult, but that was like, I saw that in The Client, and I really loved him. But Deuce Wild, man, Deuce Wild was just seeing that gang fight and like rated R. I was like, dude, this is The Outsiders, but violent and badass. And The Outsiders is a better movie, but seeing Deuce Wild. Also, I remember watching Frankie Muniz in the movie, thinking I could have done this role. I remember thinking that was kind of like the beginning of maybe I could be an actor. And my uncle, we did a whole bunch of short movies. We did a couple. I think only one I remember doing was 16 millimeter. Was we did a reenactment of the Psycho shower scene, and I was making the blood, so I wasn't technically in it. But then everything else we did was mini DV. He used to put me in a lot of his short movies. Particularly, we did one called FB17, which was this black and white movie. So much fun to make this. But we used to go to movies every Friday night. Most of the time, they were horror movies because I was obsessed with horror movies. And like, okay, this is 5th grade. House of 1,000 Corpses. Rob Zombie had made a trailer before he had made the movie, for years before that. So there was Rob Zombie's making a movie. We were waiting for years. I can't remember what movie it was, but I saw the trailer like 2 years before the movie came out, before he even filmed it. So I was on the anticipation. It was like Easter weekend, Friday night. I was in 5th grade. Everything I'm talking about is elementary school. Okay, so 5th grade. And then we had like the week off for like Easter. We had like a 3-day weekend. I remember we had like extra time off, so it was a big weekend. We went to the AMC to go see House of 1,000 Corpses. It was fucking jam packed. I used to have this like really badass jacket, like Dickies jacket with like a collar, and I had all these patches on it. I had a Misfits patch, Anarchy patch, Dead Kennedys, Ramones, Rancid. I was really into punk music in elementary school, 4th and 5th grade. I really got into punk, Ramones and Misfits especially. I remember this gigantic, like 6-foot guy grabbed me by my jacket and goes, "The Misfits," and I was like, holy shit! It got my blood pumping. He just put his hands on me, and he like pulled me off the ground. And then I remember House of 1,000 Corpses starts, and they don't shut off the lights. And people are like, shut off the fucking lights. And they start throwing popcorn. And somebody's like, don't throw fucking popcorn, you got it in my hair. And the guy's like, fuck you, motherfucker. And like, they almost get into a fucking fist fight. And people come from the theater and they have to break it up. And people, it's like almost like a riot in the little fucking theater before. The whole Captain Spaulding opening was like this little riot. And I remember being kind of scared. Like, holy shit. It felt like a legit Grindhouse theater experience. And it's a Grindhouse fucking movie. Rob Zombie made a Grindhouse movie. And I remember coming out of that movie thinking, I saw it with my uncle, his girlfriend, and his friend Jeff, who loves fucking horror movies. He was a cool guy. He still is. I run into him every once in a while in the city, and he said, I said, I don't know what to think of that movie. I've never seen anything like it. And my aunt said, it really reminded me of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And the second I heard that name, I was like, what the fuck is that? And she just explained it to me, and I could see it in my head. And I went, you gotta let me watch the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You gotta let me watch this movie. I gotta see this movie. I gotta see this movie. And my uncle said, no, it's too scary for you. You can't handle it. And I remember we went to Blockbuster. And I got the VHS and I said, please let me watch it, please. And he said, no, I'm not going to let you rent something else. And I rented Heathers, and I love Heathers. And then we were coming back. I was like, you're such a fucking jerk. Why didn't you just let me rent it? I can handle it. I'm not going to be scared. And I remember my aunt, Christina, she said, just let him watch it. I feel bad. I told him about this movie. I feel bad. And he went, okay, next time. And I was like, well, why don't you fucking agree when we're at Blockbuster? Now I'm going to have to wait. And this was like the end of 5th grade. And he said, okay. And I remember it was the very last day of 5th grade. He said, okay, I'm going to rent it for you. We're going to watch it at the house. I'm going to bring my film student friends. And I knew all his film student friends because they used to put me in their short movies too. And I worked with a lot of them. And I remember I showed one of his friends, Nico, this Asian guy from Dusk Till Dawn. And he put me in one of his movies. And it was fun. And I used to make all these short movies with his film student friends. And I say they all came. There was Christina. There was Barbara. And then I can't remember the girl's name. Fuck. But I really liked them, and they really liked me. And the last day of 5th grade, they all came over. We watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 1, and we had a big box of pizza. And then we all sat, and we also watched like El Mariachi too. And I'd seen like all of Robert Rodriguez movies, all the Tarantino movies, but we watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And when the movie ended, we were all talking about our favorite scene. And I was just like, I don't know what to say. And then the next day I was like, I have to buy that movie. And I became obsessed. I saved up all my money, and then the very last day of summer, I saved up $30 and I bought the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on DVD. And from then on out, I was 100% obsessed with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and horror movies. 6th grade, this is a whole different chapter. Middle school, 6th grade, middle school. I had just bought the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on DVD, and I was 100% into horror movies. 100% into horror movies, and especially 70s style horror movies. I had just seen Night of the Living Dead. I got that on VHS. And I grew up, I also forgot to mention before, I'm sorry, I'm backtracking, Dawn of the Dead. I got Dawn of the Dead on VHS in 2nd grade, so I grew up with Dawn of the Dead. But then in middle school, I started watching like The Hills of Eyes, the original Wes Craven, and the remake, but and then Last House on the Left. But so 6th grade, and then this is 2003, so October, the month that came out of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's my 6th grade year, and so that's Halloween. It's my 2nd month into 6th grade. I dressed up as Leatherface for Halloween, and I went to the theater, the AMC theater, dressed up as Leatherface with a toy chainsaw. Opening night, 10 p.m. of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake. I'm the only person fucking dressed up. I have a picture of it on my Instagram if you want to check it out. And I remember even like cutting out the posters. I used to always cut out the posters and the TV calendar from the newspaper. And I remember I was this kid. I brought out the poster and the lunch line to show my friends in 6th grade at school, and I'm holding this gigantic poster of Leatherface, and I was like, check it out, guys. And then after that, all these remakes started coming out, so I saw all the fucking horror remakes. Hills of Eyes, the Amityville Horror, the Dawn of the Dead remake, and the House of Wax. I remember the House of Wax. My uncle let me skip school. We went to Six Flags. My first time ever going to Six Flags. We went there 9 in the morning. We went on every single ride twice, and was just like, okay, there's nothing else to do. Let's go. And I remember I fell asleep in the car because there was no lines. Nobody was there. It was empty, and it was like, yeah, let's just go. We already went on everything twice. I fell asleep in the car on the way back, and I woke up. We were at an AMC parking lot. He said, let's go to the movies, and we saw the House of Wax remake. That was such a great fucking day, dude. Like, my uncle he was my dad. Like, my parents were shit. My dad was never around. He took me to go see, my real dad took me to go see Idle Hands, Gangs of New York, Lords of Dogtown, Max Payne, and that's it. That's the only movies I ever remember him taking me to go see. My uncle took me all the time. My uncle Paul is such a great human being and man. He's such a great father, and he really is. I don't know what I would have what I would have been without my uncle. And it was just such a great day. He spent so much money on me to take me to the movies, and all the DVDs he bought me and all the VHSs, and I can't praise him enough. I love him so much. But he was such a huge part of my childhood. I don't know what year it was, if it was 4th or 6th grades, maybe, I don't know. But my uncle, I said, I want to go see The Rules of Attraction, because he said, The Corrupt Minds That Brought You Pulp Fiction and American Psycho. And I love both those movies. My uncle would take me to go see American Psycho. He said, no, I can't take you. It's inappropriate. I think he said, no, I'm not going to take you to go see those. I don't think he said it was inappropriate, but that's what I assumed. I said, fuck, I'm going to have to wait for this movie to come out on DVD to watch it. And then I remember one Friday, no, it was a weekday. He said, let's go see The Rules of Attraction in theaters. And I said, why? Why did you change your mind? I'm going to go, but why? I didn't think you were going to change your mind. And he said, because my professor at film school said, if you go see this movie, it's interesting, and I'm gonna ask you a few questions. I'll give you credit. I'll give you extra credit. And fuck, dude, I love The Rules of Attraction. That was a movie where I was like, yeah, I shouldn't be watching this. This is inappropriate for a kid. But I love it, man. I still love that movie. I love Roger Avery as a director, who co-wrote Pulp Fiction, and then Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote it. Roger Avery directed it. Bret Easton Ellis is the author of American Psycho and Less Than Zero, Rules of Attraction, and The Informers. All great movies. Well, Informers is okay. So yeah, and by 6th grade, DVDs were coming in. The first DVD I ever bought was Poltergeist, Tobe Hooper's Poltergeist. And then I started getting Child's Play, Halloween, SLC Punk, of course, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and 2. I had The Faculty. Saw High Tension, got High Tension, Freaks, Todd Browning's Freaks, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, all these fucking DVDs. I started being obsessed. I said, I'm going to build my fucking DVD collection. And special features. I got to listen to commentaries. And there were so many commentaries I would listen to over and over again. There was a movie that was one of the greatest theaters I saw 3 times in theaters, was Sin City. That fucking blew my mind. It was one of those movies where I was like, I gotta come back tomorrow. I gotta watch it. I gotta show all my friends. I brought people. I was like, you gotta fucking watch this movie. And all of us were just like, holy shit, dude. Sin City in theaters. Whew. I'll never forget how pumped. I was straight up horny over that fucking movie, dude. It was like going through puberty. It was fucking insane. It was insane. Sin City. Fucking Robert Rodriguez, man. I fucking love Robert Rodriguez, dude. He's so... God. And then really early 6th grade, I watched... me and my uncle had it on VHS, and I remember I said, let's watch some NC-17 movies, because I knew there was NC-17 movies. I said, this is past rated R. And we had 2 NC-17 movies. We had Two Girls and a Guy, which is a Robert Downey Jr. movie, which is okay. I thought I was going to have more sex, but then there was Pink Flamingos. And I said, let's watch Pink Flamingos. And me and my friend Aaron was my best friend in middle school. He's a good guy. And we watched Pink Flamingos midnight or 1 in the morning in my room. We were dying laughing. We could not breathe at how much we were laughing. If you've ever seen Pink Flamingos, it is fucking disgusting. And it was so fucking crazy, man. It was crazy. And then Cabin Fever came out, and long story short, I didn't get to see Cabin Fever in theater. I'll still fucking give my uncle shit about it to this day, because he didn't take me to go see Cabin Fever. I rented it on DVD the first week it came out, and that's when I became I was like, he had 4 different commentaries on that fucking movie, and I used to listen to all of them more than once, but especially the one by himself. I used to listen to a lot of commentaries. I used to listen to the House of a Thousand Corpses one. House of a Thousand Corpses, I didn't love it the first year. It took me kind of a while on DVD. I remember thinking the opening was great, but the rest was okay. But then it grew on me, and I was like, holy shit, I remember I used to listen to those commentaries over and over and over again. Cabin Fever, House of a Thousand Corpses, and the From Dusk Till Dawn, because that was the only commentary with Quentin Tarantino. I had Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez. It also had, he did the Reservoir Dogs commentary. And, but God, Cabin Fever... holy shit. And then, like I said, Lords of Dogtown. That was great because it was a first autobiography, and I really liked that story. And I was skating. I got really into skateboarding in 7th grade. So yeah, middle school, there's so many, but horror was middle school is really mostly about horror movies. And I remember particularly ones that really shaped me was Last House on the Left, the original, and George A. Romero's Martin. These really low budget, just grainy, fucking brutal movies that I just was like, whoa, these movies are great, man. And seeing those on VHS, it was just like, oh my god, this is the kind of shit I want to make. If I ever make movies, I want to make stuff like this, man. And I love those fucking movies. They're so important to me. I just love the aesthetics of those movies. I don't know. It's like a time machine watching those movies. I love them. And it was just, I was just not ready for them. I just got them because of the director's name. Last House on the Left and George A. Romero's Martin. I fucking love those movies. When Saw Part 1 came out, and then Part 2. Part 1 came out in 6th grade. Saw it twice in theaters, and I saw Part 2 also twice in theaters in 8th grade. I remember with a big group of my friends twice. We went to go see it twice, and that was crazy, man. I don't like any of the other Saw movies, but I love the first two. I fucking love those movies. And then the most important movie in 8th grade, middle school, just middle school in general, I think, was Hostel. I said, okay, Eli Roth, this is his second movie. Quentin Tarantino's presenting it. I saw it with this fucking idiot guy who hated the movie. We saw it Friday right after school. I don't know how we got in, but he hated the movie and I fucking loved it. And I went back the next weekend with my uncle and my neighbor. And it was the first time nobody was there, and the second time it was fucking crowded. Hostel, I became obsessed with Hostel. I probably scared fucking people with how much I'm obsessed with that movie. I used to have 2 posters of it on my wall. I made reviews on all 3 of those movies. Hostel, man. I remember in 8th grade, I had a teacher named Mr. Coburn, and he was like, he wanted to be a director too. In 7th grade, he made a media class where we made music videos and like little short movies, and he just had 10 people. It was the only year he ever did this, and he put me in it because he knew I loved movies. And so we really bonded, and he had a good taste. And I would show him movies, and he would show me movies, and he was a cool guy. He was also a drummer. He ran like the band production too, but in 8th grade, he was teaching language arts, English, and we had to write a biography or who our hero was. And I wrote Eli Roth, and he was like, I'm going to read this out to class because I was really inspired by this project, but I'm going to read it. I'm pretty sure you guys are going to know who it is. And he read my fucking biography on why I love Eli Roth so much. And I was just like kind of sank in my seat. I was embarrassed. I was like, oh my God, because everybody fucking knew, man. And I remember I used to have a folder, and I used to tape the newspaper clippings of Hostel and all these movies. And I used to tape them up on my folder. And but Hostel, that was a great way to end 8th grade. It was like January 8th grade. I remember it came out in January. Okay, so that's the end of that chapter in middle school. 8th grade, I also saw The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and I think that's important too because Judd Apatow is one of my favorite writers of all time. And that was the beginning of his directing career, of his film career. The last day of 8th grade, me and my friend Andrew, my best friend Andrew, we went to go see Accepted at the AMC. And I remember we wanted to see Beer Fest, but we couldn't get in, so we saw Accepted, which is a funny movie, but it was PG-13, so we watched that. And I remember sitting in the parking lot, like on a curb, waiting for his mom to pick us up. And I said, dude, tomorrow we start 9th grade, or we start high school. This is like the end of a chapter in our life. Like, life is never going to be the same after this. We're going to be in high school. It's going to be different. And it was. And I just remember the last day of 8th grade being at the movie theater and just... But yeah, okay, so that's the end of that chapter, middle school. Now we're going into high school. Okay, high school was different because movies were still there, but it took a back seat because at the end of 9th grade, I became a drug addict. I started smoking weed and getting high in the very end of 9th grade. And 10th grade, I started taking pills, and then I was just full on into drugs. So it took a back seat, and then I started playing... that summer, also, when I started taking drugs, I became a drummer. And I got a drum set, and I started playing drums all the time. And but movies were there. The ones I remember particularly was I got 9th grade. I bought Gummo. I saw Gummo on the IFC channel. My uncle had it on VHS. I remember watching it as a kid, being like, "What the fuck?" And I said, "Oh, Gummo." That was our email. My uncle's email used to be gummoandme@aol.com. So Gummo was a big part of my childhood without really it being there. It was always there, but I only watched it once. I don't even think I watched all of it. But so I was like, "Oh, Gummo, I'm gonna watch this movie." And my friend in 8th grade, my friend Andrew, who's still like my best friend, he showed me Kids. He also showed me Welcome to the Dollhouse, and I showed him Happiness. Oh no, he told me about Happiness, but I had it on DVD and I watched it. Kids, so Larry Clark, it was like Harmony Korine and Larry Clark made Kids, and I watched Gummo, and I showed all my friends Gummo. I was like, this guy wrote Kids, and we were like, holy shit, dude, this is the craziest fucking movie. And I saved up my money. Actually, no, I didn't save up my money. It was really expensive. It was like $40. My sister Brittany bought me Gummo on DVD at like a Barnes and Nobles, and I still have that DVD. And thank you, Brittany, for buying that. And I became obsessed with Gummo. Ninth grade, I was obsessed with Gummo. And then at the summer going into ninth grade, Andrew showed me Larry Clark's Bully. You guys know I'm obsessed with Bully, but I got more obsessed with it as an adult. The first time I saw it, I kind of hated it the first watch, but then I was like, I gotta rewatch it. And the second time I went, okay, I like this movie. And I just kind of left it alone. And I got really into Larry Clark and Harmony Korine movies in high school, but much more Harmony Korine because of Gummo. I was obsessed with Gummo, and I still am. And then as an adult, I became more obsessed with Larry Clark movies. But in high school, like Another Day in Paradise and Ken Park and Kids, those are a big deal. We used to quote a whole bunch of kids in my high school. We used to quote Kids. We used to go Stoops when he's like, yo, that what's that pussy smell like? And he's like, smells like just like butterscotch, yo. And he goes, Stoops. We used to say that all the time in high school. A whole like dozens of us just go Stoops. We used to just fucking say that all the time. And there was this kid. He was I'm not gonna say his name, but he was poor, so he didn't eat, and he was super super skinny. And we used to say he had AIDS, so we used to call him Telly because he looked like he had AIDS. And people, I remember one kid actually went up to us and was like, yo, does he really have AIDS? And we're like, no, you idiot, he doesn't have AIDS. But yeah, what I remember distinctly, the movies that made it. I didn't go to the movie theaters a lot. I went to the movies, but not as much because I spent all my money on weed. But I remember Alpha Dog. Seeing Alpha Dog was a huge inspiration. And then movies like River's Edge and Mean Creek and seeing those movies was like, holy shit. It was like Bully, where it was just like, it's about like legit teenagers. It's like an adult movie about teenagers dealing with the consequences of murder. And that was a big, like, whoa, I'm obsessed with those movies. And Alpha Dog in theaters, though. And, yeah, River's Edge and Mean Creek. Those are big movies for me. I had seen Gus Van Sant's To Die For. I grew up with that on DVD. But then in high school, I saw the Death Quadrilogy. I saw Jerry, Elephant, Last Days, and Paranoid Park. And it took me like the second or third viewing on both those movies to really fall in love with those. At first, I didn't love them, like Bully. I was like, I don't know, but there's something there. I'm gonna rewatch them. And then like the third time I watched them, I was like, I fucking love these movies, especially Elephant and Last Days. Fucking obsessed with those movies. I watch those movies at least once a year. Some people might find them like the most boring movies of all time, and I get it, but I fucking love those movies. And then I also saw Drugstore Cowboy, and I was like, holy shit, dude, I like this fucking movie. I like Drugstore Cowboy. And then, but the biggest, the theater experiences that I remember were mostly in Vegas because we couldn't gamble. We had money. My friend Andrew's mom would take us to Vegas every spring break, and she would give us money, and she was so generous. Alice is such a generous and great person. She would always give us money. And before in ninth grade, we couldn't smoke pot, so we would just go to the arcade and the movie theaters. We would spend all day at the movie theater, and we saw the midnight showing of Grindhouse, Tarantino's Death Proof, and Robert Rodriguez's Planet Terror. Grindhouse. It ended like at 3 a.m. That was one of the greatest theater experiences of my entire fucking life. It was fucking insane. It was fucking insane. And then I remember Rob Zombie's trailer for Halloween came out, and I didn't want to go spend my money because I wanted to buy weed. So me and my friends, we bought weed and we watched it online. Somebody put it online, and we watched that movie like 5 or 6 times within those couple of months. I love Rob Zombie's Halloween. That's my favorite Halloween movie. And then also in Vegas was Pineapple Express, and that was when we started smoking weed, and we got to see that movie midnight showing Thursday night in Vegas. No parents, just us smoking weed in the casino. We were at both of those theater experiences was at the Brendan Theaters at the Palms Hotel Casino. Fuck, dude, I had so many great times. Me and Andrew and all our friends, we had so many fucking great times in Vegas as a kid. Getting high and not getting high and going to the movies, it was so much fucking fun, man. I'd do anything to go back to 10th grade and see those fucking movies, man. It was great. A huge theater experience was The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight took over the world, and that's a movie that deserved to take over the world. I saw it 3 times in theaters. We saw it in Vegas, and I saw it twice here. I think I saw it twice in Vegas, and then once in Azusa, my hometown. And fuck, dude, The Dark Knight was just epic. And then Heath Ledger, man, just sucks. And then Get Knocked Up and Funny People, and then my friend Andrew showed me Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which was a horrible influence on me. Cause we used to say go to Vegas with as many drugs as we could, just weed or pills, and mostly just weed. I would take pills when I was at home. but it was such a bad influence. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Became obsessed with that movie, and I became obsessed with Hunter S. Thompson. I started reading his books. I must have read that book like 4 or 5 times. It's a small book, and I read his biography. Became obsessed. I had a big poster of it in my room, like a drawing of Ralph Steadman poster of the Fear and Loathing of them driving. Such a bad movie. And then Andrew also showed me Bad Boys with Sean Penn, the Rick Rosenthal movie. Holy fucking shit. That was a brutal movie. I love that movie. That was like, whoa, that's a movie that's like, I want to make movies like this. This changed my life. I started like becoming obsessed with Sean Penn because I also saw Dead Man Walking. And I was like, and Mystic River. Fuck, I forgot about Mystic River. And it was just like, dude, Sean Penn's the fucking man. And I just seen like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That was like, whoa, Sean Penn's the man. Okay, so in 11th grade, I remember I was just getting into Gus Van Sant. I really was like really into the Death Quadrilogy, and I remember thinking like, yeah, these are interesting movies. I like this director. And then 11th grade, The Wrestler and Milk came out at the same time, and I was like, oh, Mickey Rourke. 'Cause I forgot Spun. I saw Spun as a kid. Only once or twice. I bought it on DVD, like maybe somewhere in high school, but Mickey Rourke and then Sin City. I was like, this guy's a fucking badass. So I was like, I want to see The Wrestler. And my uncle took me. He had just gotten married, so it was rare now. Because my uncle got married in 8th grade. So then and then in high school, he moved out, and I had the room to myself, and that's when I started doing drugs, and it was kind of bad. But, I mean, it was really bad. But, it was just bad timing that he left, because I wish he would have been there to kick my ass, but he had to move out, and he got married and had kids. But so he took me to the movie theater. I remember it was only twice in high school he took me in the movie theater because he was married and he had kids. He took me to go see this movie called Turistas, this horror movie. It's kind of like Hostel. I haven't thought about that movie in so long. And then I spent the night at his house because my grandma's house, there was a power outage, and my uncle was like, there's a power outage, there's no electricity, you wanted to sleep at my house. And then went to his house, and we watched he had Showtime, so I watched all the Masters of Horror episode. I watched all these Masters. I remember the ones I loved were Dario Argento's Pelts and John Landis's Family. But yeah, that must have been like 8th or 9th grade after he was married. But then in 11th grade, he took me and my sister to this art house theater in Pasadena, California, to go see The Wrestler. And I fucking loved it. And I remember sneaking in just for a second, seeing Sean Penn making out with James Franco and Milk, and I was like, ugh, what the fuck? And then I remember thinking, Milk, that's not a story I care about or really even care to see. I don't care about like gay politics or I don't care about politics at all. And like, it was just like, I don't care about that story. But I was like, dude, James Franco's in it, Sean Penn's in it, Emil Hirsch, Josh Brolin. Oh my god, I forgot. There's a whole other thing I forgot. But Josh Brolin and who else is in it? But there I was like, all these actors, these great fucking actors, and it's Gus Van Sant. I think I gotta go check this movie out. So I went to go see it in theaters by myself. I saw Milk in theaters by myself, and it was like, holy shit, this is a really well-made movie. And I started listening to James Franco. James Franco's doing interviews about it, and he said, yeah, My Own Private Idaho is my favorite movie of all time. And I was like, what is that? I gotta check this out. And I was like, oh, it's River Phoenix. That's like one of the last movies he made before he died. And I watched My Own Private Idaho, and I was like, holy shit, this movie, wow, I've never seen a movie like this. And it was just like, oh my god, thank god I saw Milk, because it led me to My Own Private Idaho. And just, the movie is okay, itself is okay, but something about River Phoenix's performance, it was like, holy shit. That was when I started thinking, I think I might want to act. Like, I think I want to do some acting with my life. And I had thought about it before, like seeing James Franco and Sonny. That was like, whoa, I started really getting interested in acting. And I also saw Good Will Hunting, and I saw that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon wrote it for themselves, for them to star in it. They said no one's going to give us a movie. And it was also Gus Van Sant. And I was just like, I think I got to write something for myself. So I think Milk and Good Will Hunting is what made me go, you know what, I need to write something for myself. And that's a whole other story, the first screenplay I ever wrote after high school. But there's one story I forgot to tell you. It must have been 10th grade. I just started smoking weed. And me and a couple of friends, it was opening night on both movies. We saw No Country for Old Men and The Mist, Stephen King's The Mist, both movies. And it was like, holy fucking shit. These movies are insane. Oh my god, both of them fucking blew me away. They were so violent and so crazy and so well made, from like legit filmmakers making these crazy violent horror movies. And like, I think No Country for Old Men, you could argue that that's a horror movie. The Mist is definitely a horror movie. But God, seeing those that day, man, and I went back to go see No Country for Old Men again. I had to take my uncle and my aunt and my sister. I was like, you guys gotta watch this fucking movie, and we watched it. But yeah, Milk. That was the last like theater experience I remember really having an effect. But I remember the very last day, summer, going into senior year. Me, my friend Andrew, and his brother, we went to go see Rob Zombie's Halloween Part 2. I said, okay, I missed Part 1 in theaters. I loved it. We got to watch Part 2 in theaters. And we watched it, and I was like, holy shit, this is a brutal fucking movie, man. This is brutal. And it was like, this is kind of scary when he's killing the guy who owns the strip club. I forget his name, Roebuck? I forget the actor's name, but I love that guy. He's in River's Edge. He plays the killer. But I remember being kind of scared during that scene and being like, wow, this is great. I love Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. It's fucking great. I know a lot of people hate it. And there's also another movie I watched as a kid was Wes Craven's New Nightmare. I'm jumping back and forth, but watching Wes Craven's New Nightmare, I must have been in second grade when it's at his dad's funeral and he's pulling him in. And holy shit, dude. I remember seeing that the casket and him then going into the casket. If you guys don't like Wes Craven's New Nightmare or Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, fuck off. Those movies, I don't get it. I just don't get it. But I remember after Rob Zombie's Halloween Part 2, we were sitting in the parking lot waiting for Andrew's mom to pick us up again. And I remember thinking, just like accepted, I said, you know what? This is the last day of summer we're ever going to get. After this, it's the last year of high school. Summer's not going to mean anything. We're going to be adults. Who cares? But summer, it's just going to be hot. And I never did college, so summer never meant anything to me after that. And yeah, like everything changed after that. And okay, so I'm going to try to wrap this up, but there's a few that I just got to mention before. Like I saw the whole Nightmare on Elm Street box set, I think 1 through 6, when I was at that girl Nadine's house, my mom's friend. So this was about 5-6 years old right after Lost Boys, and that was a big deal. And then just like rentals, movies I saw at home that really blew my mind and I knew that were special were like Monster with Charlize Theron, holy shit, and Boys Don't Cry, and Feast, a Project Greenlight movie, Running Scared, Party Monster, Natural Born Killers, and Donnie Darko. The summer I saw Donnie Darko when it came out, that shit blew my mind. I had to keep rewatching it over and over again. And the movies that I felt like, there was one day I watched 2 movies with my mom and my sister, and I knew my uncle wouldn't let me watch them, so I understood why. It was Storytelling by Todd Soltz and The Basketball Diaries. And I remember just being like, yeah, like a part of my innocence died watching these movies. I shouldn't have watched these movies. And I love those movies. I think they were very well made. I really like Todd Soltz's first 3 movies. And then after that, he kind of goes downhill. But those movies, I was just like, yeah. But I love those. All the movies that really kind of disturbed me as a kid where I thought, yeah, this is inappropriate. I genuinely love them and I respect them. But, yeah, not good for kids to watch. I think it was bad for me to watch. But I love them. And then movies I saw in theaters, the biggest one of all was Freddy vs. Jason. Holy shit, that movie had so much publicity, and I'd seen the whole both the franchises, but just one time. I didn't grow up with them as much as like other people did. I grew up more with Child's Play and like the Universal movie, like Wolfman and Bela Lugosi Dracula movies and all those types of shit. But Freddy vs. Jason was just such a big deal. And seeing that opening night in theaters, I went to this special theater in Monrovia called the Curriculum. Holy shit, dude, that movie took over my entire summer. It was insane. I had never been so hyped for a movie. And then other movies I saw in theaters that really just were great was The Others, Cell with Jennifer Lopez, Land of the Dead, Punch Drunk Love. When I saw Punch Drunk Love, that was my first Paul Thomas Anderson movie in theaters. Wow, that blew me away. In third grade, just seeing Adam Sandler give that performance, and I love romances that are different. I think romances have a lot of potential. I think, like all genres, movies have a lot of shitty ones, but they have great ones too. And I really like Punch Drunk Love. I mean, I love Punch Drunk Love. Paul Thomas Anderson is my favorite director of all time. I got more into him as an adult, but that was the big Paul Thomas Anderson movie when I was a kid. Punch Drunk Love. And I saw The Beach with Leonardo DiCaprio, The Mexican, and Wrong Turn. Wrong Turn was the only movie that my grandma now took me to the Nice Theater, AMC, to go see. That was a big deal. She took me and my cousins. That was just like kind of, I felt at the time was a big budget slasher movie. And that was so great, man. My grandma, like, The Wrong Turn Part 1. And I like Part 2. Part two was fun. I remember I rented Feast and Wrong Turn to part two together with my friends, and we saw that, and they were both like really bloody, like straight to DVD horror movies, and both had Henry Rollins and great. I also saw both the Alien vs Predator movies in theaters. I saw part one 3 times when I was 13, and I saw part two fucked up out of my fucking mind on drugs. I saw that and the Dewey Cox Walk Hard story. Yeah, the Dewey Cox story. Man, dude, me and this guy, Felix, we took a whole bunch of fucking pills and we smoked some weed before that movie. Both those movies. That was intense, but I loved it, man. That was a crazy fucking theater experience. And like I said, I didn't go to the theaters as much as in high school because I spent most of my money, pretty much all my money on drugs and then like drum set stuff. But movies were there because I used to get fucked up at night. I used to take a whole bunch of pills, and then my friends we would have movie marathons at like midnight to like 10 p.m. to like 5 or 6 in the morning, just watching all these movies that we loved. And just smoking weed the entire time and tripping. And most of it was just like a fuzzy memory, so I can't name them all. But I remember distinctly, I mean, so many. But I remember we loved a Goofy movie, The Page Master, 13 Ghosts, and I remember we tried watching City of God, and I saw City of God when it first came out. My uncle just bought that on DVD. I just came home and it was there. That was my life. I would just come home and I shared my room with my uncle. So all these great movies were just in my room. It was fucking amazing. And like DVD special features, watching all the making of behind the scenes stuff and all the commentaries. There's so many more commentaries that I would watch a lot. And like when I was a kid, me and my sister, we didn't have our parents. We were raised by my grandma and my uncle, and all my other cousins were raised by their parents who had good parents, and they all had a little bit more money than us. I remember all my cousins had like Disneyland passes, and I only went to Disneyland once or twice tops when I was a kid, and they would go like every other week, and I would be jealous of that. And I think like my aunts and my uncles and my cousins felt kind of bad for us. And we weren't poor. We always had clothes and food and stuff, but we didn't have what they had. We never went on vacation. I've never been on a plane, but I had movies, and I had my uncle showing me all these movies that I had a VHS collection. I had my DVD collection, and I went to the movies every week, and I had movies, so I don't feel bad. I hope I look back, and I had a pretty great fucking childhood. I went to see some amazing movies in theaters, and I saw some real fucking classics when I was a kid. I'm so thankful that I got to see these movies when I was a kid. And like I said, Quentin Tarantino was a god. He still is a god to me, and not just for his movies, even though I fucking love his movies, every one of his movies, all of them, but because he has the New Beverly Cinema, and that theater only plays everything on film. So all these movies that I got to, all of his movies and all these movies that I love so much that a lot of them I didn't get to see on film. I saw them on DVD, like Deliverance and Boogie Nights and Near Dark and Heart 8 and Night of the Hunter. All these movies, so many fucking movies. Dazed and Confused. So many movies, and lots of movies I've never even seen. I just go to this movie theater all the time just to watch them on film, and it gives me this new experience. When I was a kid, it was watching these movies in theaters or on DVD, and now as an adult, my thing is rewatching them or watching them for the first time on film at the New Beverly and the Egyptian Theater. So it's like this circle of my life of just going to the movies, and everything great in my life has happened at a movie theater or watching a movie. And maybe that sounds a little sad, but that's just the way it is. And yeah, and I remember when as a kid, like I didn't like going to I had the dollar video store, but I always wanted to go to Blockbuster because they had a bigger selection. Not a better selection, but a bigger selection. And I didn't like the $3 theater as much. I like going to the AMC because the screens are bigger and the seats are comfier. But now the AMC is still there, and I would there was no block. I would pay so much more money to go to the dollar video store than go to a Blockbuster. The dollar video store is where I miss. That's the video store I miss. And the $3 theater still exists, but they upgraded it. It's like $8 or $9 now, and it just doesn't have the same charm. The Foothill Cinema in Azusa, it just doesn't have the same charge now that it's upgraded. And I don't like going in because digital projection. I'm not gonna get into all that, but I don't want to go to a movie theater and see digital projection. I'm sorry. I want to see it on film. That's why I have a 75-inch 4K. I could watch that shit on 4K at home. Like, I don't know. And yeah, movies are the most important thing in the world to me. I have a weird obsessive mind, I just I just chose it as a kid, and I don't like, most people don't know what they want out of life until they become an adult. I've always known what I wanted out of my life, and that is to watch and make movies. And drugs got in the way for a long time, but that's just part of my story, and I'm gonna make a movie. I'm working on my first short movie. I'm gonna make it on 16 millimeter, not digital, and I'm making that promise. And I'm saving up money. I'm gonna build my credit, and I'm gonna make my fucking movie. It may take a year or two. In a year, I'm gonna figure it out, how much money I can get, how much I have and can get. But I'm gonna make my movie on film, because that's all I want out of life, is to make at least one short movie and one legit movie. That's all I want out of life. After that, who gives a fuck? And I love movies. And thank you guys for watching this video. It's actually didn't go as long as I thought it would be, but I really appreciate it. Now you guys know a lot more about me. If you guys want to give me a little list of certain movies that it really inspired you and meant a lot to you as a childhood, you can leave in the comments. Thanks to Jason for inspiring me to make this video. And I'm Jacob from Cinema Junkies. Thanks for watching. Keep watching. You guys can reach me at cinemajunkies_ at Instagram. So yeah, cinemajunkies_. Don't forget the underscore.